Almighty God, give us grace that we may cast away the works of darkness. It's Advent, and the days for us are getting darker and darker and darker. When I first moved to the Pacific Northwest back in 1966 for a campus ministry job at Washington State University in Pullman, I noted with wonder and not a little fear that I had previously never been north of the 38th parallel, except for summer vacations. Well, that first afternoon after we returned to standard time was amazing. The street lights came on at 3:30. Learning to embrace the dark early in the afternoon was a very new thing for me. Canadian singer and songwriter Leonard Cohen died recently. We sang his most famous song, Hallelujah, at the 10 o'clock Mass 2 weeks ago. His last work is entitled, You Want It Darker. In it he writes and sings, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. It's been noted that this last song was Cohen's goodbye. He was entering the darkness of his own death, and he wanted to embrace it fully. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung helped us to see about the dark side, the shadow side that all of us carry through life. Many spiritual writers speak of the shadows that we carry. Father Richard Rohr writes that we cannot really move forward until we are in speaking terms with some of those shadows from our past. Such can be wounds, emotional or even physical, that we really have never faced. We can't cast away the darkness, but the Advent calling isn't asking the impossible. Rather, we are asking for God's help in casting away the works of darkness. In spite of the sun's gradual but steady departure, darkness will not finally envelop us. We shall see the light of Christ. Put upon us the armor of light. Advent was a holy time for me as a child, long before I knew the church season or even of Jesus Christ. With my only sibling, several years older, and having 4 aunts with no children of their own, oh my, was I ever set up. My family went all out to shower me with gifts. Yes, and love. In the few weeks that led up to and included Christmas, and having my birthday just 4 days after Christmas really added to the specialness. Well, that's a shadow for me. I still think I'm special sometimes. And that's the shadow side, as I've said. It comes up and bites me at surprising times. It hits me when I have to stand in line at the store. Why don't they just move me to the front of the line? Or, at another time, when a church interviewed me for the position of rector, and they didn't immediately call Father Wonderful. Well, actually, they did, but it wasn't me. I'm a work in progress, as are you. And I've learned that being special is really a pretty lonely place to go through life. Very soon now, I will rejoice in humble wonder and amazement as I stand at the Christmas creche and behold the baby Jesus, God becoming flesh. Then I won't be special anymore. I'll be just like you. So we begin our spiritual journeys early on, and then we augment that early spiritual journey with experience in faith. I began to see that Christmas was way more than gifts under the tree. I was captivated by the beauty of St. Luke's Gospel account of the Holy Family's physical journey from Nazareth, perhaps, to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and subsequently the flight into Egypt. I can still hear Charlie Brown reciting on network TV, imagine that long narrative that begins. And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. That's so embedded in my mind almost as much as the boy soprano singing once in Royal David City at the service of lessons and carols at King's College, Cambridge. It comes in about noon, our time, Christmas Eve. Be sure to tune in, radio or stream. Now, you will very soon hear that passage from Luke's Gospel, for it will be read or chanted at the Christmas Eve services as well as Christmas Day. But Advent calls us to move forward in our faith, not merely treasuring those wonderful things from the past, but moving toward the future. I would ask you to move from the Gospel of Luke as your Christmas Gospel to what I think to be the biggest Gospel of Christmas, which is from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John the Evangelist speaks so clearly of the incarnation, that incredibly awesome truth that God becomes a person who was born of a woman, grew in stature, taught, healed, proclaimed, corrected, died as a criminal, and rose that we might have life in him. We have so much to help us in our pilgrimage through Advent. Here's the Advent wreath. It's kind of a liturgical countdown. 1 candle today, then 2, then 3, then finally 4. We have lovely, lovely music to warm and enchant us. We have our city all around us that, in spite of its excesses of commercialism, doesn't allow us to ignore the beauty that lies just ahead. We will join with family and friends this season, while remembering that this season may also be very difficult for those who have lost loved ones this past year, or who have no nearby family or friends as we may have. Just as the greatest joy in the resurrection comes to those who are willing to walk the way of the cross during Passiontide, so the power of the Incarnation at Christmas is greatest for those who prepare their hearts and minds for the Lord's coming. So in the name of the Church, I invite you to a holy Advent. Today is the New Year's Day in our Church's calendar. Happy New Year. A time for you of yet another new beginning. In 4 short weeks, we shall welcome Jesus in the beauty of this church and in our lives. Come, thou long-expected Jesus. Even so, Lord, quickly come. Your people await you with joy.